All right, we're about to pull back the curtain on 4 incredible recent discoveries. Each one reveals these invisible forces and hidden truths that are shaping everything all around us, from our most ancient past to the way our own minds work. Let's dive in.
So how much of our world is really hidden in plain sight? We go through our days thinking what we see is what we get. But what if the really important stuff, the game-changing stuff, is happening where we just can't see it? That's what we're talking about today. How science acts like a special lens, making the invisible visible.
Okay, first up, let's take a trip way back in time. Millions of years. For decades, the story of our early ancestors kind of revolved around one superstar fossil. But it turns out she was hiding a pretty big secret. A secret neighbor, to be exact.
So you've probably heard of Lucy, right? Australopithecus afarensis. For the longest time, the thinking was she was pretty much the only hominin on the block in her part of ancient Ethiopia. Well, plot twist, she wasn't alone. Not by a long shot. She was sharing the landscape with a totally different species, this Australopithecus deiremeta. And here's the kicker. They weren't ancestors and descendants. They were neighbors, living at the exact same time on the same turf.
So the big question is, how on earth do two different early human species manage to live side by side without wiping each other out? Well, it looks like they had a live and let live strategy. They carved out their own little niches. Lucy's species, they were the ground dwellers, built for walking, and we can tell from their teeth they were munching on tough grasses. But her neighbor, Agearmeta, a completely different toolkit. It had a foot with an opposable big toe. I mean, think about that. Perfect for climbing trees, and its diet was all about stuff you find up in trees and shrubs. They just avoided competing. Smart.
I mean, that discovery just completely rewrites our past. So, from a hidden relative, let's jump to a hidden threat that could seriously shape our future. This time, we're going deep inside a modern virus. Think about the last time you had a nasty flu. That awful fever, that's actually your body's defense mechanism kicking into high gear. It cranks up the heats around 41 degrees Celsius, that's a scorching 106 Fahrenheit, to basically cook the virus out and stop it from replicating. And for most human flu viruses, it works. But bird flu, yeah, it's got a secret trick up its sleeve.
And here it is. The virus's hidden weapon is a gene called PB1. The best way to think of it is like a biological heat shield. This little piece of genetic code allows avian flu to just power right through that high fever, multiplying like crazy. And that resistance, that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. But here's where it gets even scarier. Viruses are notorious for swapping bits of genetic material. And when scientists looked back at the big, deadly flu pandemics of 1957 and 1968, they found a smoking gun. This exact heat shield gene, PB1, had jumped from a bird flu strain into the human flu virus. It's almost certain this is what made those pandemics so much worse.
Okay, our next discovery is about an invisible thief in the very air we breathe. We all know that exercise is one of the best things for us, but it turns out something in our environment can quietly steal those hard-earned benefits.
Check this out. A massive global study, we're talking over 1.5 million adults, revealed a really stark reality. People who exercise regularly in clean air have about a 30% lower risk of death. That's huge. But for people exercising in areas with high levels of fine particle pollution, those tiny harmful particles known as PM 2.5, that amazing benefit gets cut by more than half. It drops all the way down to just a 12 to 15% lower risk.
Now, the researchers are very clear. You should absolutely keep exercising no matter where you live. Some benefit is always better than none. But what this discovery really highlights is this critical hidden cost. The air we breathe is a crucial ingredient for unlocking the full life-saving power of a workout.
All right, for our last discovery, let's look inside our own minds. Have you ever wondered why you can pick up a new skill so much faster than even the most powerful AI? Well, scientists have just uncovered the hidden mental toolkit that makes us all such incredibly fast learners.
The concept is called compositionality, and it's this simple but really profound idea that our brains don't start from zero every single time we learn something new. Instead, we just reuse and recombine mental skills we already have. For a long time, this was just a theory, but now scientists have actually found the physical evidence for how our brains pull it off.
So, in your prefrontal cortex, your brain snaps together these reusable neural patterns. Researchers call them cognitive Legos. Let's say a task requires you to identify a shape and then point left. Your brain activates the shape block and the point left block.
Now, if the new rule is to identify a color and point left, your brain just swaps out the shape block for a color block and reuses the rest. It's an incredibly efficient modular design.
And this hidden blueprint for learning is precisely why you are still far more flexible and adaptable than the most advanced AI. See, when many AI models learn a new task, they suffer from something called catastrophic interference. They basically overwrite and forget the old skill. Our brains, thanks to these cognitive Legos, just don't have that problem.
So when you put it all together, what do all these discoveries, these glimpses into the invisible world, really tell us?
Well, they show us that by looking closer, science can uncover a hidden relative and rewrite the entire story of human evolution.
It can reveal a hidden weapon inside a tiny virus, giving us the crucial foresight to prepare for future threats.
It can expose the invisible link between the very air we breathe and the health of our bodies.
And finally, it can uncover the very blueprint for learning inside our own minds, explaining the real foundation of our own intelligence.
Each of these stories reveals a hidden world in our past, in our bodies, and in our minds, all brought into the light by science. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What invisible truth that's shaping your life right now will be the next one we uncover?